this presentation, which is rather short, the idea is to look at what could healthcare look like. What's the potential? What could healthcare look like? And more importantly, how could yoga be a part of the system? Yeah. And so as we go through this, we'll talk about some really valid evidence-based or evidence-informed reasons why yoga should be considered. And for me, this is kind of like preaching to the choir. Like, you kind of know these things. So this isn't so much, I don't think about this so much as like, here, I'm standing here trying to convince you of why yoga is important. You already know that. This is more about how you can talk about yoga to healthcare providers, how you can be taking this information out there into the world and creating the changes, right, that we all need to see in ourselves and in individuals and in populations. I think one of the silos we get stuck in, one of the silos of thinking as yoga teachers we get stuck in is individual health. And that's not entirely our, completely unique to yoga either, right? That's a problem of the healthcare system, is that we focus on individual health rather than population health. But I think yoga is uniquely adaptable to populations. And I think this is an incredible benefit, an incredible asset of the yoga practice, to be able to think about it in terms of populations instead of simply in terms of individual health. So that's some of the things I'm going to be talking about in this PowerPoint. So I wanted to show you this graph first, which was from a 2007 study, National Institute of Health and the CDC. And I talked about these a little bit yesterday. The most commonly used complementary and integrative medicine. So the first one on the slide is natural products. As you know, the GNCs are everywhere, right? So, and it's a huge industry. Natural products is a huge industry. And the second one is, and that was 17.7% of the population is using natural products. And then deep breathing, 12% of the population uses some deep breathing. Meditation, 9.4. And then chiropractic and osteopathic is 8.6. Massage was 8.3. And yoga comes in at 6.1. This is in 2007 when the survey was done again, or it wasn't a survey, but it was another follow-up study in 2012. As I mentioned the other day, yoga bumped ahead of massage. And some of the things that they added in that second study were they kind of put yoga and qigong together, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. And they kind of go together in some ways, but many more people are using yoga than qigong. I love qigong, frankly. I mean, I think it's an amazing practice, therapeutic practice, with many more similarities to yoga than we try and create more distinction, but there's so many similarities. So anyway, there was a shift, but this is the graph that I found from that original survey in 2007, which I thought, this is interesting. And I don't want to ignore the other ones on the slide, which include diet-based therapies at 3.6%. That's lower than I would think. I would think there would be more people doing diet-based therapies, but then again, we live in the standard American diet, the SAD diet, right? Progressive relaxation. Last time I checked, that's part of yoga. Guided imagery. Yep, that too. And the last one is homeopathic treatment at 1.8%. Okay, so as I mentioned the other day, the United States spends $10,000 per person, which is tends to be more than twice, almost 2.5 times as much as any other country. And that $10,000 figure, by the way, was predicted in 2000. That's a predicted figure for 2015. In 2014, it was 9,000 something. But this one came out from Forbes magazine recently as 10,000. So I'm using that because it's a nice round number. And of these, of the $3.2 trillion that we spend on health care, 75% of it goes to chronic, treatable or preventable, I should say, diseases, right? Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, high blood pressure, cancers. Not all cancers, some cancers. Right? Money doesn't grow on trees. Obviously, it's an a very unsustainable number. And if we continue on this trajectory, it's really important to understand that if we continue on the trajectory of these kinds of numbers of spending over the next 20 years, we'll get to the place where we don't have the money to be able to afford the healthcare system. Already the government's in deep debt, but we're digging ourselves in a lot deeper, and these are really unsustainable numbers. So it's not simply like, oh gosh, it would be nice if yoga gets included in the healthcare system. Rather, there's a necessity to include complementary and integrative practices because of the unsustainability of the system. And I think that's a really important point to understand. It's not just like, oh, yoga is something like fun and nice to do. It's an essential healing practice that unless and until we include it, we won't be able to see the cost saving benefits of these kind of practices on the whole system. And the system is in dire straits right now.